Hearing anything from me?
Nope. Just me in the room. I'm not used to having headphones on. Hey everyone, welcome to part 4 of this journey that Bob is coursing me into doing.
I am not forcing you to do this. This is your journey of self-improvement as as we venture into new year, new things to do. So,
I was going to
gotta
say any other time of the year, I would argue that nobody has is on any journey of self-improvement, but if that was any true, it's all for today and tomorrow.
exactly.
All right, well, let's just jump into it cuz we ran out of time last time and I want to make sure we don't run out of time because I really just want to finish this stuff up so I can go take that test. We're gonna pick things back up. If you remember, we rushed through 1.5, and I feel that that wasn't. I couldn't live with that. So we're gonna go back to 1.5, and we're gonna specifically take a look at enterprise, mainly because I don't know. Everybody I interact with is not an enterprise, but yet the whole world of Atlassian lives off of enterprise. So I'm in a confuzzled state.
I am and I agree with this too because I think there might be some questions where it's important to understand what happens if you have enterprise in the mix because it
Mhm.
is possible to have in your organization enterprise for certain products and sites and then other plans as well,
Right.
standard and premium, and so you have to understand what your bill will look like if you're in a complex situation like that because it's not always cut and dried.
Yep. So I think from a standard and premium, I think we got that covered. So let's just jump into this enterprise thing and kind of goes like start all over again and wrap this up better. So first thing you need to know, enterprise is more expensive by a lot. But is it really? I don't know. The thing I like about enterprise, Bob, is that it's a lot more negotiable than than your standard and premium pricing, right? I feel like with standard and premium pricing, it's very what you see is what you get, right?
Yeah.
It's either that $5, $6 or that $16 fee, and that's it. You really don't have a whole lot of wiggle room. I think your partners still have the option to kind of negotiate you down a little bit in
Yeah.
standard and premium, but it's still kind of cut and dry. I mean, it's going to be very, very obvious. But on enterprise, it's not a posted price, and it's a bundled price as well.
Correct.
Right. And so for companies that are in need of some enterprise licensing, and I think we're going to cover over some why would you even consider enterprise, right? Which I think we covered last time, but I just want to double cover it.
Sure.
We'll cover that in a second. But first things first. Contrary to last time that we did this, right? Enterprise billing is no longer required for HIPAA. This was a requirement at least 6 months ago, and it's not anymore. So that's good
Right.
news, right, Bob?
Right. And that is good news. That smaller organizations don't have to make that leap to enterprise in order if they have HIPAA compliancy requirements.
Yeah.
So,
So, so then that puts us into then what makes sense for you to be an enterprise. And the way I like to tell customers is if you have multiple instances of the same product, multiple Jiras or multiple Confluences or any combination of therefore, right? Then and there's this so if you have multiple Jiras and your users need to access them all, right? If they need to jump
mhm,
from one to the other, then enterprise makes more sense because if you're on any other plan, standard or premium, you pay for that individual to access each Jira. But on
correct.
enterprise, you pay for the individual as a heartbeat, as a user, and they can go to any Jira for the same price, albeit it's a bigger price, but the same price nonetheless, which should hopefully, fingers crossed, be cheaper than you paying for that individual to access 3 or 4 different Jiras.
Right. So there is a break point where it does make sense if you're in a situation, if your organization is in a situation where, as Alex mentioned, you have individuals and these individuals need access to multiple instances in your organization, then enterprise does make sense. Otherwise, if you did this on uh, standard and premium plans, you would be, double billing, triple billing, quadruple billing, just individuals for each
Plus,
site.
so not only the triple billing, quadruple billing, but then you also got to add the Atlassian access on top, which is like another $3 to $4 per user.
Correct.
And with
Correct.
enterprise, it's one bill, unlimited juras. I think it says what, maybe
It's
up to 100,
unlimited.
up to 150.
Yeah. The practical limit is 150.
Yeah,
So
but I don't know that anybody. I mean, I have a jura with like 20, and that's a lot. But yeah, 150 would be crazy amount. But yeah, so you get one bill for each user, 150 juras, and Atlassian Access is bundled in. And I think there's also a new reason, Bob. There's a new reason why you would even consider this is automation billing. On enterprise, it's still unlimited. So if your company is on premium and you're consistently hitting your automation usage limits
yep.
every month, then enterprise is the only option next, or scale back your automation usage.
Yep.
But this is going to be the only way. All right. So that's kind of what an enterprise is all about and why you would consider it. And so it does require annual billing. So that's good to know. It does include Atlassian Access, as we mentioned. And you also get a couple of additional enterprise grade features. We can cover this. I think if we go look at the pricing, right? If we go to Jura pricing, although this exam is not really about Jura itself, but it's good for you to know that if you compare with enterprise over here on the right, there's going to be a couple, and I'm talking about a couple of things that are enterprise only. For example, you get the data lake, you get Atlassian Analytics, and some data connectors. None of which are going to be on this exam, but you should know that you get that capability.
And that's kind of a nice to have, especially with these organizations that typically have enterprise have those SQL experts that really want to dive into the analytics,
Yeah,
and having access to that data lake in the Atlassian Analytics really helps out.
right. You also get user counts, which is really helpful, because what happens when you buy enterprise is you buy not like 50 licenses for this instance and like 100 for this one and like 200 for that one. You buy like 1,000, and then you can divvy it up however you want. You can send all 1,000 to all. Let's just say you had 5 Juras, right? And you have 1,000 licenses for Jira. You could, if you wanted to, send 1,000 or allocate 1,000 for each of the 5 instances. Alternatively, you can go like 200, 200, 200, 200, 200, right? And so these user counts is going to, at a glance across all your Jiras, tell you, hey, you bought 1,000. Here's how many you're actually using.
Yep.
Right. And it's a really useful functionality that I was so happy that they Atlassian launched it, because prior to this, it was nearly impossible to find out how your 1,000 users was being divvied up and how many licenses you were actually consuming. Product requests. This is, what the heck is this? Admins manage. Okay, this is fake news. This doesn't exist. this is a lie.
and it's not on the exam as well, so we can
Yeah.
keep moving. Don't worry
But
about
it's
that.
still a lie. Oh, I would worry about it if you're anybody. Okay, IDPs. This is beneficial. I think this might be in the exam, or at least is relative to the exam, right?
It is. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things you need to know, right, is if you want to have multiple identity providers, right? If you want to hook up to like Azure and like a Google workspace type of thing for whatever reason, or if, let's say you have 2 different Azures, maybe you merged the company or merged with the company and they had their own Azure AD, and you have your existing Azure AD and you just don't want to merge them for whatever reason. Well, with Enterprise, you can connect back to each of those Azure ADs and be able to do that. And you can't do this. You can't connect to multiple IDPs or identity providers in Premium.
I've had many clients where they have they may be in a process of cleaning up their LDAP setups, underneath Azure, and they couldn't do it without being on Enterprise and having that multiple IDP capability.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's
that's
really needed. But
Yeah,
again, you do get bumped up. Audit logs for user activity. I thought this was for everybody, but you get better audit logs.
yeah.
Spoilers: Jira audit logs are not the best, so take whatever you can, folks, because this is the blessing. And BYOC encryption. This is early access. Again, not going to be on the exam, but just know that you get a little bit of some extra.
BYOK. So that for the security minded, that stands for bring your own key.
Bring
So
your own key.
you can use your organization created keys for
Yep.
security and encryption.
And and then finally, of course, you get enterprise support, which means Jerry jumps on this in a hurry. You also get an enterprise account like a rep. So you have somebody to complain to that you can actually talk to, which is a benefit, right? Because when you're on standard and premium, you don't always have the benefit of having somebody at Atlassian that you can go help, right?
Yeah.
Like, so with enterprise, you do get somebody, whether they're effective or not, it's debatable. I enjoy my two. I have an enterprise account partner and a customer success partner. I think you get both when you're on enterprise.
Yep.
Love them both. I whenever I need them to actually come through and help out. I don't know if it's worth paying the extra money. Oh, and then when you're on enterprise, well, the TAM program that's available to anybody, right? Like you don't need to be on
Yeah.
enterprise to get a TAM. Like anybody can buy a
Yeah.
TAM.
That's a separate thing.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you needed to be on the enterprise to be eligible to then purchase a TAM. Oh, we're getting people on the high. Hello, Victor.
Yes.
How are you? Thanks. Glad these videos are helpful. I got a comment, Bob. I don't know if I shared it with you or if it was in the comment section that you would have seen, but somebody took the test recently, the ACP-520, and passed it, and they accredited our videos to like giving them that push that they needed to go and take the exam. So maybe I should eat my own dog food.
There you go.
All right. So that's kind of that. So it is different. We'll get into a couple more details here because we've already spent 15 minutes on this. But the biggest thing is it's billed annually. It's a centralized thing. Atlassian Access is included, and you saw some of those enterprise grade features. You have the ability, as Bob mentioned earlier, to subscribe to separate standard and premium plans if required. I don't see a whole lot of use cases for this. In my opinion, if you're an enterprise, I would keep Enterprise Jira and Enterprise Confluence. The only exception to this would be like JSM. I typically keep JSM on standard or premium because that's just an expensive thing to buy at enterprise level. But Bob, you wanted to say something there?
Yeah. I think you're gonna, and this is where it's not always that cut and dried situation. You may come into places where mergers and acquisition M&A activities have happened. They've had their own Jira and Confluence on either standard or premium, and you're on enterprise. You transfer those instances over into your organization, so now you have both enterprise instances and then the whatever whatever instances you transferred that aren't on enterprise. And so
But it's
that's,
not. But it makes no sense to not move them into enterprise. You can promote them to enterprise.
you can, but it's not always an atomic type of operation. It's not going to be done in a day.
So, okay, yes, but I would urge you to go through the hoops because there are hoops you have to go through in order to convert your standard or premium Juras to enterprise, especially with an M&A. And there's a path. There's an actual flow chart that allows you. Let me see if I can find it.
That and that's true, but the situation, different organizations are going to have different situations, and they may be in the middle of this, and these things aren't like turning on a dime. This is like Titanic
Yeah.
turning. So
Yeah, I will tell you that it takes a month at least to, if you're gonna go through a merger, it takes about a month to successfully make an enterprise because I couldn't find the picture, but there is like a series of paths. Like there's a decision workflow that you can look at. And depending on like how legacy your cloud is versus the newer version, um, it may or may not be possible. And Atlassian actually needs to go in and like hard code some stuff into your Jira or Confluence in order to make it upgradable to enterprise. And three out of the four paths, lead you to not being able to upgrade to enterprise. So it really just depends on if you're in that, luckily in that happy path that does allow you to upgrade. But I would still pursue it. I would at least check, because if you're not, if you leave it like this picture here, where you have 2 enterprise products and 1 premium, 1 standard, here's what happens. You're gonna get a bill for your enterprise, right? That's great, awesome. Your premium may be monthly, so you might still get a monthly bill. You're still gonna need a credit card for
Actually,
these.
that's not true.
It's not? You have to
It's
go to
not. Um,
annual? 'Cause it's
anything if you're in one organization that has enterprise and other products, those other products go to annual billing too. So it's all one annual bill.
So then let me rephrase what I said. Make sure that you end up in an org in a picture like this where you merge the org over to that enterprise org. Because if you leave them out there, if you leave them in the original org that they were in before your merger, then
Mhm.
you still are like subject to billing. And the only reason I brought it up, Bob, is because I had a merger, right? And I brought in my Jira. I upgraded it to enterprise, but status page is not a mergeable thing. Status page
Yeah,
stays.
that and that's they don't tell you that on the test, or they don't tell you that when you're studying, but yeah,
We're giving you
what
real world
normally
scenarios
should
here, folks.
happen is what normally should happen in when you transfer is that once all the products are transferred over into the organization, that original organization, um, it gets automatically deleted. And it didn't happen in Alex's case because they couldn't transfer over status page. So
So yeah, again, work with that Atlassian. Anytime you're gonna do a merger like this, work with that Atlassian. They got experts in house. It's covered under your Atlassian support, so it's not an extra bill or anything.
yeah.
But they should be able to guide you and tell you what is going to be or is not possible for your instance. But again, not on the test, but just know that in this particular scenario, the comment that I will make though is that you will get an Atlassian bill for your 8,000 Jira users and your 10,000 users. Atlassian Access is included. You're going to get a bill or a line item for your Jira Premium here, and you're going to get a line item for your standard, and you're going to get another line item for your Atlassian Access for these 2,050 users. If, big if these 2,050 users are not part of these 8,000 or 10,000 users.
Right. If
Does that
they're
make
not,
sense?
if that's correct. If you're setting up at an additional Atlassian access for those standard and premium plans, that's where those additional users come from.
Yeah. So
Anything that is using Atlassian access bundled through enterprise is
it's free.
does not appear on the bill. They're already
Right.
covered.
So what I mean is, let's just say your company has only 8,000 users, right? Just cap it at 8,000. Well, that means that these 2,000 users are a subset of these 8,000 users. But because they have access to the enterprise one, they don't count against your Atlassian access for this one because they're in an enterprise plan. Now, if they were accessing, if these 2,000 users, let's just say then you have a 10,000 person company and you're like, hey, I'm going to pay 8,000 for this, and I'm going to set up an extra 2,000, separate 2,000 people over here. Well, the 8,000 will be covered under your enterprise Atlassian access, but these 2,000 will become billable users for that for a separate line item in Atlassian access. And Jira will tell you, right? You'll just have another row in your directory for Atlassian Access, and it's going to show you those 2,000 users that are using this Jira, because these 2,000 users are not the same 8,000 over here. But if they were the same users, not a problem. But if they're different, you're going to pay a little extra. So that's why I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like nothing about this, when I'm already in enterprise, is beneficial to me, in my opinion. Like it makes more sense. Make them all enterprise, because there's no extra fee to make this Jira enterprise and to make this Confluence enterprise. If anything, you save money, in my opinion.
Right. So there's one more thing that Alex hasn't told you yet that
Uh-oh.
does not appear on your enterprise bill, and
Bitbucket?
that, huh?
Bitbucket?
No, apps.
Apps. Ah, yeah. Have we got another
So
one? Oh, no.
what?
Okay.
Tell us what happens with apps when you're on enterprise.
So when you're on enterprise, and one of the cool things about being on enterprise when you are dealing with apps is that you see these 3 Juras in here, right? Well, there's 2 technically. Each of those don't have to receive all 8,000 users. You can send like 100 to this one and like 7,900 to the other one, right? And when you sign up for an app, right, when you go through the Atlassian Marketplace and you buy an app for acme.atlassian.net, you're not going to get billed for 8,000 users. You're only going to get billed for the
How
100.
many users your instance
Yeah,
has, your
right.
individual instance.
And you can,
So
again, make up to 150 of them, right? And
right.
so that is one technique that a lot of companies use, right? Because in Atlassian world, you would be, if you only had one Jira, like here at this Acme Legal, you're on the hook for paying for 2,000 users, even if only like 5 people need to use the app. And so it doesn't make sense. So what you do when you're an enterprise, you just spool up a new Jira, put the 5 people in there, and Bob's your uncle. Right,
Yep.
Bob?
Exactly.
And that's it. So then you only pay for those 5. So you do, however, just from a billing perspective, when you get your annual bill, it'll just be a line item. And you got to be very careful because the details are in that bill. It'll say acme-legal.atlassian.net, 5 users, and the plugin, and the price for that 5 users for that plugin. And so each of your Juras for each of the plugins that are in each of those instances is like just a different line item in your bill. So you do end up getting like a 2-3 page Atlassian access or Atlassian bill when you're on enterprise. But yeah, it's fun. Just learn how to read. You'll be fine. All right. So more teams need new instances of Jira or software. They can add it, like I said, right? I wouldn't. I think Atlassian puts this because honestly, my gut tells me, right? Like if I have my Atlassian hat on, I would push for this all day long because this is just extra money for me, right? Because if your users are an enterprise, like you're not gonna get any extra money. So I think as a marketing expert, I'm putting this all over the place. I wouldn't even if I wouldn't even like I would completely ignore that you can optionally add standard and premium. It just literally makes no sense to me, Bob. Why you would do that if you're an enterprise? Again, mergers and acquisitions aside, if you're not dealing with M&As, why would you buy another standard or premium Jira?
I don't know.
Exactly. Crickets. You don't do it. All right.
If they're already on enterprise and they ask me that question, it's like, why aren't you just spinning up another instance?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Your billing here, just know that you just get one bill, and you get one massive bill, 2 different line items because Confluence and Jira are 2 different line items that you'll pay for. So just know that your users here, this picture makes sense, right? If you're just saying like, hey, these 8,000 users are this, and then this 10,000 contains a subset, which is the 8,000 from here, and 2,000 additional users. And those 2,000 users here do not have Jira software. So
Right.
um,
It's the enterprise plan on specific products. For Confluence, and then for Jira, it is Jira Software and Jira Service Management. I don't think Work Management does not have an enterprise plan yet. And
but
neither
as of
does
right now,
Product Discovery.
but as of right now, Jira Work Management is kind of bundled with Jira software.
It's true.
Jira Product Discovery is its own line item and its own build item outside of all the enterprise stuff. All right, so bills for other products continue to work the same. When you have enterprise, you pay per user per plan. Because enterprise plans are billed annually, we require you to pay your other bills annually as well. There it is, Bob. This means we'll switch all your bills to annual when you go to the enterprise plan,
Yep.
which can be a good thing or a bad thing. I think companies, I don't know, I know that they like to, the whole amortization and taxes probably comes into play, but just know that you got to pay annually here. And we kind of covered this already here with the Atlassian Marketplace stuff, but just kind of cover this real quickly. So Marketplace apps are built separately, and like our plans, each product has their own user tier, which means this Jira can have like 100. And then this one over here can have a different number, right? And so just know that you're gonna pay based on the number of users that are in that particular instance. So I would think small, but at the same time, also consider and remember that your Juras cannot talk to each other. So if your team's gonna go like make sure you have a really good use case for why you're gonna spool up on your Jira because Jira A cannot talk to Jira B. So this issues from acme.atlassian.net cannot talk to issues from acme-hr.atlassian.net. So keep that in mind. This is the how they all work together, which means again we covered that you get this one bill for. Here's a picture of what we were talking about earlier, right? So you're gonna get your Atlassian access here for the enterprise because you paid for those enterprise users. But because you have, you can see how here how it's included with enterprise, but because you have an extra 2,000 users for your premium, and this assumes that they're different, that this means that they're a different set of 2,000 users, you're going to get a billable users bill for 2,000 users as well. And so just keep that in mind. So in order to avoid that, bump this one up to enterprise, and then you're fine. Or make sure that these 2,000 users are the same or part of this 8,000 users up here, and then you're fine as well.
Right. So you will probably see questions on the exam related to Atlassian access billing if you're in a situation where you have enterprise and you also have a separate Jira standard or premium instance, and then a separate Atlassian access to cover those standard and premium plans. So be sure to understand whether or not those enterprise users count or don't count. We also have a question here
Yeah,
from
I just saw
Victor.
that. Does Jira Work Management share the same storage as Jira software as it is bundled? I believe so.
I'm going to assume that I'm going to assume I'm going to agree with Alex here. I'm going to assume the same thing because if you're and by storage, I'm assuming you mean storage limits. Standard has, I think, 250 gig, and premium is unlimited. So if you're using a Jira software premium license,
Well, we got it right here. But premium and enterprise are unlimited. So at that
right,
point, who cares?
right,
But yes, I do believe because it's the same. It becomes just at least for today, right? I have heard rumors and chatter that Atlassian is planning on divorcing this, right? For right now, they've let it be for whatever reason. But I do hear that Atlassian is eventually going to separate and completely divorce Jira Work Management from Jira Software because it's kind of confusing. Again, not that it'll be on the test, but just to give you guys the backstory, right? I don't know if you guys have you ever done conditional logic, Bob, or for gates and digital
yeah,
logic and
of
computers?
course,
So when you buy Jira software today, you also get Jira Work Management templates. So you don't really get the product. It's not an extra line item in your like products, but you get the
right.
templates for Jira Work Management. But you can also go the other way around. You could go and buy just Jira Work Management, which is like $5 a month, and not get the Jira software templates.
Okay.
Not have to pay the $10-15, right? So there's that, right? But it's just know that it's like a diode.
So there are situations where I've talked to prospective clients, and some of those clients, they're not doing software. They couldn't care less about whether or not they need to do it in sprints
Right.
for Scrum. And for those people, I recommend wholeheartedly here's your work management. You can buy these licenses,
And it's way cheaper.
yeah, and it's way cheaper, right? You don't have to worry about
Yep.
sprints and or fully featured Kanban boards. So
But most people are, Jira software, and then they get to use Jira Work Management as a benefit.
yeah.
Although Atlassian, something for you, Victor, to just check out. What is it? Jira One? What do they call it?
I'm not following.
Atlassian One?
One Atlassian is typically, or are you talking about Atlassian together?
That thing, Atlassian together.
Okay.
They should have gone with one. Everybody else has one. Here you go. This is what you get.
So yeah, Atlassian Together is a product bundling that they offer, which includes
Here,
a
let's get it
lot.
on there.
It's really good for non-technical teams. It includes Trello, Confluence,
Work management,
Jira Work Management, and Atlas.
Atlas, and I think Atlassian Access.
Does it? I didn't think it did.
I thought it did. I thought that was the whole point, that it gave you everything you needed.
For non-technical teams, non-technical work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still give you access. Because the access is just a security thing, right? Just a
Yeah.
access. Oh, I could have sworn, unless they changed it. You get the plan integrate. Yeah, it's secure. See, this is the Atlassian access. At least it used to be. We'll have to come back on that, but I'm pretty sure it was there at one point. Unless now that they moved it to enterprise, Atlassian likes to change things up. But it used to be like that, where you didn't have to get enterprise, because enterprise is a new thing. Pretty sure it used to include access. But anyways, neither here nor there. Let's wrap this up because we're 30 minutes into this. All right. So how does Sandbox affect your bill? So if a user has only access to a Sandbox, they don't count as an enterprise user, but do count as a unique billable user. So this goes back to just make sure that anybody who has access to any of your Juras, if you're an enterprise, that they have access to an enterprise Jura. And as long as that's true, then they can access everything else for free. But if they're not going to have access to an enterprise Jira, then just keep in mind that anything else that they access within your org is just going to count as a billable user. So this includes like Trello. This includes like Bitbucket. So if you have a company of 10,000 users, and I don't think we covered this here, Bob, and definitely wasn't in this picture, but if you have like these 8,000 users, right? And let's just say that you have another user that's not part of this 8,000, but they have to access just Bitbucket for whatever reason. Guess what? This number is going to be 2001
Yep.
because
That's correct.
Bitbucket is not an enterprise thing. But they are using your domain. They are using your at kingbob.com domain. And so they will count as a billable user for access. Same thing for Trello. So if you have folks that are using Trello and they're not part of this 8,000 users here, you're going to get this bill is going to go up. You're going to get your own separate Bitbucket bill. You're going to get your own separate Trello bill. But whoever gets the bill for the Acme organization here is going to see a bump here for those folks, unless you make them non-billable. But then that comes with security implications, and it's not a pretty picture. But just know that those are
There's
shadowy
actually
bills.
a list of non-billable users for Atlassian Access, and we've already talked about the big one is if they're they're accessing enterprise, they count as a non-billable user because of the bundled Atlassian Access under enterprise. A few other ones.
No, but I wouldn't say that way, Bob. Like non-billable. So non-billable means two things.
Okay.
At least in my view, right? So non-billable, because these folks are billable, they're just billed already. They're not non-billable because Atlassian allows you to make a non-billable policy, right? So you
Okay.
can go into your, oops, probably not this one. Which one were we using? ACP, ATEC, ACP. There we go. You can go into your Jira. Really? I haven't logged in here. Hold up. Maybe later. I need to switch accounts. Stand by, folks. Like switch accounts. Cue your elevator music, Bob. Entertain the folks and entertain our guests. Just don't get us copyright strikes. So do like open source, non-copyrightable songs.
I have to find humming songs in the public domain, don't I?
Yeah. So don't do any. Although did you hear that Mickey Mouse becomes public domain on Monday or tomorrow?
I have heard that.
Isn't that crazy?
And
How did
I think I think some people have done that as well. I think Winnie the Pooh, the original Winnie the Pooh, based upon
Yeah, I've heard of that
A.
one.
Milne's book, becomes public domain.
Yep.
So there's going to be like a lot of derivative work, and I think maybe in a few years, like Superman, as originally done by Siegel and Schuster, becomes public domain.
Yep. Okay. So here we are on the authentication policies, and I can't do it. Let me see if there's one over here. But you know what? There should be a non-billable policy Atlassian access. Here we go. Let's see if we have one here. I'm in the same article. So when you make a non-billable, here we go. You can't do enforce single sign-on. You can't require two-step verification. You can't block user APIs, and you can't add users that sync to your IDP. Right. That's when you make them non-billable. When you make the policy non-billable. I think what you were saying though is if you're an enterprise user, you just don't get billed for those users.
Okay, that's true. If you're that is one of the situations where you do not get billed, or you do not get added to the tally, the user tally,
Yeah.
for a separate Atlassian
We're here.
access. If you're already
In an enterprise.
in that situation, there are also a few other cases where you do not get counted on that bill. So things like if you are an account with no access to any products, that doesn't
Bump your
up your
right.
that doesn't up your bill.
No,
If
but your
you're
JSM will though. So if you're a JSM customer, right? So if you're
your
only using
JSM
the
customer,
portal, you will.
that does not.
I'm pretty sure it puts you in the billable. If you're a JSM customer only, if you're only accessing the portal of a JSM product,
Mm-hmm.
you're still a billable user because unless you have JSM Premium.
I don't see how that would make any difference.
Yeah, because you are I have proof of this, right? If
Okay.
you're a JSM customer, so you don't have a JSM agent license, you don't have a Jira software license, you don't have a Confluence license, you're just a service portal internal to the domain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Customer, then for the convenience of being able to use your @kingbob.com email, you get added as a billable user to Atlassian Access.
Okay.
So this number will go up for each customer. I've seen it. I have it.
Okay.
Additionally, if you had even if you had a JSM enterprise, if you had an enterprise standard or premium, and that agent is not on the enterprise or the Confluence enterprise, then they're also counted as your billable user as well. Anybody that's not using an enterprise product is billed, unless you make them non-billable. But if you make them non-billable, which then you go through this policy here, you lose your ability to enforce a single sign-on in the 2FA, right? So it's not secure. So you kind of forced by Atlassian to bite the bullet and eat it and eat the cost. Or you go crazy and make them all non-billable. But I think from a Trello and Bitbucket perspective, it's not that big of a deal. But like your JSM problem people, they're going to have some problems. Moral of the story, keep an eye out on this billable user, because anybody who's not in this enterprise plan, so anything else outside of it, so any premium Jira, any premium Confluence or standard Jira, any Bitbucket, any Trello, any JSM, right? Anything that's not this specific enterprise will be billed for your license, and you get an extra Atlassian Access billable user. You could, again, make those 9 billable policies, but I don't recommend them because they are less secure, in my opinion, right? So as an enterprise, less secure is never a good trend to follow. So most companies would just eat the cost and just deal with it.
One also exception, one type of account that does not increase your billing on Atlassian Access is if the account is deactivated.
Yep.
And we'll talk a little bit later about what a deactivated account
Yeah.
is.
All right. So billing details, you just go to billing. Now, if you are you're self-managing, you'll see this. If you're going through a partner like release team, you won't necessarily see this. It just depends. So like if you're going through C Prime or something like that, you'll be able to see like your subscriptions, but you won't see the prices and you won't see how much it's costing you. That's all privy to that company, your provider. So you'll see that, the different products that you have, but you just won't see any of the actual numbers. Change user tier for your enterprise plan. Each enterprise bill user maximum. You can upgrade your user tier. Oh yeah. So you could at any time change how many users are assigned to or allocated to a specific Jira. Keep in mind, if you guys remember from earlier, we had an example where this one had 100 and this one had 7,900. Well, let's just say that I'm like, you know what? I've exceeded my 100 and I need to bump this up to 200. You could do that, but it's going to come at a cost. You won't have to pay extra for Jira because that's still enterprise, right? It doesn't matter. But you will have to now pay the delta for those 100 new users for every single plugin that is in this particular instance. So keep that in mind. All right, monitor user count, which again, very, very new feature, very, very handy. If you're an enterprise and you haven't seen your user counts, go and look at them. It is a blessing. This is probably one of my favorite features from Jira or from Atlassian. Adding and removing products. So adding a product is very trivial, right? It's just a matter of going into your Jira, going into here, going into your products, clicking on add product, you'll add your Jira. Then conveniently enough now, Atlassian will reach out to you and go, hey, we noticed you just added a new product. I noticed you're an enterprise user. How many users do you want? And do you want us to bump it up to enterprise? And so I'll always say yes, because again, it's cheaper. But it didn't used to be that way. It used to be that you would have to reach out to like your C Prime or your release team. They would then have to like mitigate for you. But I'm glad that at least this is now happening. At least from the last time I spooled up a new Jira, like a month ago, it all happened kind of like Atlassian reached out to me. But removing a product, holy moly, you got to move a mountain here to get these, get rid of one.
Yeah.
Have you had any luck with these?
I have not had to experience that. One thing to remember, we mentioned before, some Jira products do not yet have an enterprise plan available. So we're talking here about Jira Product Discovery and Jira Work Management. So
yeah, keep that in mind. But the last thing I'll say though is like if you are going to remove a Jira software from your enterprise, you will have to, and you're going through like a managed provider like C Prime or a release team, then you'll have to reach out to them so that they can go tell Atlassian. But I've been trying to delete 5 of my 20 Jiras for the last 2 years. Hasn't happened. Have not been able to pull off that feat. All right, managing your bill under Atlassian Access. So, there's this whole thing. So, Atlassian Access uses a different model. Atlassian is billed per organization. This means that you pay only once for each managed account. This is all included if you are in a enterprise. Now, your Atlassian Access bill will show the number of users that you're paying for. These are your unique billable users. Remember, each user that is under managed is a user. The user count may not match the total number of managed accounts in your organization because some plans already include Atlassian Access. We don't charge you twice. That's good. So which users are not considered unique billable users? So memorize
this is important.
Folks.
Study this part for the exam.
So user accounts on the following plans do not count towards your Atlassian Access bill because Atlassian Access is already included in their plan. Managed accounts on all other plans, including free plans, do count towards your Atlassian Access bill. Managed accounts that only have access to Sandbox also count to your Atlassian Access bill. So, Confluence, any managed account on an enterprise plan, Jira Work Management, enterprise, agents, enterprise, Ops Genie, standard enterprise, status page, any managed account that can administer no status pages doesn't get a whole lot of love, but just know figure out this if it applies to you, but just know that it's there. And then Trello. In addition, a user is not considered a unique billable user if they don't have access to any product, as Bob said. They haven't been active since February 2018. Their account's deactivated. They're a member of a non-billable authentication policy, which we covered, right? Which this means you lose a lot of the security. They have a JSM portal customer account. Okay, this is live though.
Yeah. See, that's the text that I saw that made me think
But
that customer accounts.
I can show this to you again, but we may have to pull in what was
Joanna?
it, Joanne?
Sure.
Yeah, we might have to pull in Joanna for this one because I've seen this. Unless they changed it from, because again, folks, remember that there's 3 different UIs right now in play. There's the old legacy, there's the one that 90% of the people are on, and then there's the newest one for anybody signing up for Jira within like the last 2 months. This though I have seen. So I have users that are not an enterprise user in any way, shape, or form. Right? They're just a customer and they count in my Atlassian access. Like I have to pay for them because they're a managed user. They don't have access to any of the other products. My JSM's not enterprise, and it makes sense. Like they have to be they have to be billed. This is also weird too. They only have access to JPD. I would have thought that anybody accessing JPD is also a billable user. And then anybody who accesses Trello, unless it's covered by a legacy Trello enterprise. But if they're just a Trello, they will count. We'll have to pull Joanna in for this one, though. I'm very curious about this one.
Okay.
Remind me. All right.
right.
Here's the good picture for you to review. You have 5,000 enterprise, 3,000 enterprise, whatever these are. Okay. And then you have 2,000 standard users for Trello, because these 5,000 enterprise and these 3,000 enterprise, but these 2,000 are Trello only, right? Because look at this. You could, and we mentioned this before, right? With access to Jira Software, Confluence, and Trello's not an enterprise. It's just standard. But because you have access to an enterprise Jira Software or Confluence, you're not going to count as billable because you have access to a product that is already covered. But it's only these folks, only the folks that are only Trello. These 2,000 people here are going to give you a trouble. So that's where this 2,000 is going to come from. Again, this is where I love the exam, right? We're like, you can't fake this stuff, man. You gotta live through this. You gotta have an enterprise. But it's unfortunate because, like I said at the beginning, right? Not everybody's on enterprise. So I think you're kind of handicapped if you've never used enterprise before. I think Atlassian should really I think Atlassian should have like an enterprise flavor of the exam, or not include enterprise, or make enterprise be the same as standard and premium, because this is just way too complex.
There might be there might be kind of a push for an enterprise related exam.
I think that makes sense. There's just so many nuances with enterprise that you just don't worry if you're just on premium and standard. But then like Andy scares me, right? Because Andy's like, oh, well, like 99% of Atlassian's customers are enterprise. I'm like, well, shoot, man, I've worked with hundreds of people and I've never even one team that I know of is on enterprise out of all the teams that I've ever worked with in the last 5 years. So you think I would find more enterprise.
So, welcome to the science of big numbers, right? Atlassian has 250,000 customers. 1% of 250,000 is still a heck of a lot of customers.
Yeah, but you would think.
So 10%.
2,500.
Yeah, 2,500.
You're telling me that of everybody I've ever worked with, I've only ever hit with this 2,500.
Could be.
Man, some luck I have. All right. Well, anyways, I think we're an hour into this. Guys, folks, ladies, look at all of this information. You're going to want to memorize and really have a good understanding of how the billing portion works, the monthly versus the annual, the how to subscribe for it, the payment details. Understand, change who counts towards your Atlassian Access bill, right? Like this These are options you need to know. These are things you must understand and have a good understanding of, because you will experience these in a real world scenario.
Right.
Um, Deleting
It,
and deactivating accounts, by the way, non-trivial if they're managed. This becomes infinitely impossible if they're managed account. You have to go through your service provider and
yep.
delete or deactivate them over there, which makes them very, very annoying. Also,
Which,
by the way,
but it
oh,
also
go ahead.
makes sense.
It doesn't. It makes a lot of sense until it doesn't, Bob. I have a Jira with 100,000 users. There's only 4,000 active users. That leaves me with 96,000 inactive users. Okay. I don't have access to the managed account, so I can't deactivate them or delete them. And so I'm carrying 96,000 users as baggage. And for each one of those, right, I have to manually, because there's no book. You can do 20 at a time. Anytime that I want to like move any of the 96,000 people into a non-billable policy, guess what? 20 at a time or one at a time.
Yeah, but if these 96,000 don't have access to any product, you're not going to get billed for them anyway.
No, but you never know when they might be turned on. You might not. You never know when they might come. Like somebody might send them so this goes to our previous training about like invites and shares
Yep.
and who's auto approving your domains, right? Because
Yeah.
unless you turn all those stuff off, somebody could invite somebody else, and then your bills just start skyrocketing. So it's
Yes.
always best to keep your numbers down, keep everything down to avoid these sudden surprises in your bills. But yeah, I don't like this billable. I don't. I use it a little bit, and I every time I move somebody into a non-billable policy, I get yelled at by that user because now they have to know a password, and now they're locked out of Jira, and like, it's a big mess. I don't like it. I'd rather just pay. In the grand scheme of things, $3 a month per user per year then just becomes like a parking ticket in a company. But and then you can cancel your Atlassian subscription. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's that.
So don't worry if you've gotten confused. We are actually going to be talking some more about Atlassian Access when we start hitting Module 4, because
All right.
Module 4 kind of gets us through Atlassian Access one more time.
Just in case.
Yeah,
All
just
right.
in case.
So let's start at least 2-1 and let's see if we can go. Oh, wait, we didn't do the thingy with the university thingy.
Yeah, do the thingy.
Let's do the thingy. So I'm over here. See, I got to February 18th. That's like 45 days, dude.
I know. That's when you're signed up for the exam, right?
I'm gonna take it on the last day that I possibly can take it.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah,
managing
you
product
registered
access.
for that right now, right?
Sorry?
You registered for that last day, right?
Yeah. Of
Okay.
course. Okay. So also as
I'm
a
asking Lena.
reminder, you will only be quizzed on the items that are in the contents of this portal. So when you buy the exam, you will get access to the portal and you're only on the hook from here. Nothing that we say, nothing that we read so far. If it's not in here or whatever it says in here is how you have to answer it.
Right.
Okay.
So there, understand that Atlassian Cloud is updated almost every day. So there's going to be some things that just don't apply anymore,
Yeah, especially with
and
me, right?
you do have to know the differences. The exam is going to follow the course. So whatever the
Right.
course says is going
It's
to
fair
be the
game.
correct answer on the exam.
Yep. So in the previous lesson, so I can't believe we didn't finish this 1-3. I thought we would have done these last time. So understand your product roles, which we covered in the past. I'm going to skip back to here in the interest of time. We're on 1-5. Here we go. So what will you learn? Subscription plans. So there are 4 main plans: free, standard, premium, enterprise. The billing page preview. The billing preview page shows you all the products and app subscriptions across all sites. The free plan has a 10-user limit. Trials can be canceled at any time, but you may need to limit the number of users again. And to delete a product from your organization, you must delete its product subscription. This is not that hard to do because Atlassian will block you if you're doing it in the wrong order. All right, understand what is a billable user. So let's explore a few details about billable users, including where to find how many you have. So where can you find your billable users? You're gonna be able to go under billing and go to your software and then go to your users. This is very important, folks, because I've seen examples in the exams, like just sample questions where they kind of they like this is part of like the question, right? So or the answer. So know this stuff, like know where you're going. Another location is on the product page itself, where you can also see the plan. You can also see the user counts under managed subscriptions page. And for enterprise subscriptions, you can go to products user counts to view the user counts for each individual product there. When is a user considerable billable? A user is considerable billable when the user has product access and their status under directory/users is not suspended. Users with the Confluence guest role only and Jira Service Management customers are not billable users. Again, for this exam, this may be true, Bob, but I can assure you that I have evidence to support otherwise. The Bob just sighs.
I'm just waiting for the Slack message to go out to Joanna. We
Yeah.
still have the channel up.
The actual
I'm just
status.
wondering whether or not you're going to wait till after New Year's.
No, right now they're all on vacation. I'll wait till New Year's. The actual status of any user may be active or invited depending on whether the user has logged in or not. And of course, 10 or users or fewer on a free plan are not billable. So we're referring to product access on the standard plan or above. Note that once a user is added, they're automatically counted towards billing, even if they don't accept the login. So be careful, folks. Don't just be inviting everybody. Don't be the Oprahs of Jira invites.
And that's actually true if you mistype the email in their invitation email.
Yep. Be
The
careful.
instant you hit send, they count as a billable user, even if the email invitation or the email address that you use is a wrong email.
Yep. Also, an invitation to a user whose email address. Freaking Bob. Just wait 1 second. Sandbox. So sandbox users know when we speak of product access here, we mean access to a production instance. This should be this right here though, Bob. What we just had here though, and this is I take that back. We're not going to send Joanna this message because this billable is still not the same billable as in the Atlassian Access billable. This is just who you're paying for from a license perspective. So yes,
For a product
yeah.
perspective.
So yes, this is very true. A Confluence guest is free. They're free, and a JSM customer is free. That's a different story when we get to Atlassian Access. So let's get to Atlassian Access and see what they say over there. So again, folks, if you're confused, we do this every day for a living. We'll say a prayer for you.
And sometimes we get confused too.
This is why the test is hard. This is why it's not for the faint of heart. All right, so Atlassian Access. So Atlassian Access uses a different billing model from the other cloud products, which we just referred to. It's included in the enterprise plan, or it can be purchased as an add-on to everything else. Okay, and so managed accounts on all non-enterprise plans, including free plans, counts towards your Atlassian Access bill. That means literally anybody who's not an enterprise, you're going to pay for them. And that doesn't matter if they're using a free version, if they're using Trello, Bitbucket, whatever. As long as they're using your domain, your kingbob.com email, they're going to count. And if you're not an enterprise, then it doesn't matter because you're going to pay for anybody anyways, right? It's only the enterprise where things get hairy. What's not included? So deactivated accounts, JSM customer. Again, seriously, I'm we're
telling you
doing this.
that's where I get it from. So maybe we do contact Joanna.
We're definitely contacting Joanna. Members
right.
of a non-billable authentication policy. This is true, but be very careful when you do this. And those who do not have access to any product are not considered unique billable users. Because this is like I feel like this has a caveat. I feel like JSM customers that are not managed customers. Like if I email with my APTech to your company and your company's enterprise, you're not going to pay Atlassian Access for me. But if I'm a customer in your kingbob.com domain, I feel like I'm paying a customer because I am now in your domain and I have to pay for the ability to use my SSO.
So you're talking. So there might have to be a clarification of JSM external customers. If you open up your JSM so that you have your service desk out into the open internet, and
Right.
somebody outside, like Alex at apetech.me is a customer of that JSM portal, that public
Right.
JSM
They
portal.
will, yeah, that I 100% believe they don't count because
Okay.
they don't own your domain. But if
But
I
if you
am
have an
Alex,
internal service desk,
yeah, internal services, I'm Alex at kingbob.com and I don't have access to any of your Juras or anything else, and I'm just being given access to be a portal customer because I am leveraging that SSO, I will count.
yeah, I would
That
agree
makes,
with the logic of that there. And that there probably should be a clarification.
but we will
You know,
talk to the
next time
authors.
they
Worry
up
not,
rev
folks.
course.
Worry not. Worry not, internet. We will talk to Joanna because we're like BFFs now. Although
Because
she broke
Alex
my
knows
heart
what we
because she
want to
doesn't
say
eat
about
internet,
these
but then
things.
she, hey, this is
Okay,
important.
it
All right,
is.
managing your bill. So managing your bill is often about reducing the total number of billable users on a product plan. So remove or suspend individual access. I recommend that you go through this at least every 90 days. If you have a limited number of licenses, I go through them every 30 days. So if you're in my Jira and you haven't used Jira in 30 days, you're out, buddy. But at least 90 days. I hate it. It breaks my heart when people have lost somebody from like 2 years ago, from like the 2020 layoffs that happened, during the beginning of COVID. And every single month for the last 3 years, they've paid that $15 a month fee for that user. It just breaks my heart. Stop throwing money away. Double check your people here. Deactivate or delete managed accounts. Again, we talked about this where you may need to go into especially for managed, right? You got to go into your service provider to get rid of them over there. Set up your non-billable policy. Again, be very, very careful with this, folks. Like, this is doable. This is a functionality that is allowable. You will piss people off, I guarantee you. Don't say you weren't warned. It's possible, doable, but just know that somebody's going to get mad. A downgrade. This is just if you want to like not use all the functionalities that you're paying for, you can downgrade. So that'll make your plan cheaper. Most times, though, the way Atlassian is going today, just the trend, they want you to upgrade. They're giving you everything on premium, and standard and free are getting less and less features every single day, which also breaks my heart a lot. And then delete the product entirely. That's a little bit more extreme, though. Test your knowledge. User has a product access and their status is invited. They are billable. Blank.
That's blank.
Non-billable. A user's at, wow, okay, this is weird. Okay. That's funny. Which account counts towards your bill access bill? Managed accounts on enterprise plans. Technically, yes, but we'll see. Managed accounts on free plans, yes. Managed accounts without product access, no. Managed accounts that are deactivated, no. So it's gonna go free because this one's about word choice, right? This is all about, yes, a managed account and enterprise plan will count for Atlassian access, but you don't get billed, right? But they do count because they're part of the mix, right? It's more transparent. That's, again, English is hard, but this one's definitely the most right answer, the most obviously right answer, right? Because if they're a managed account and they're on a free plan, they're not on an enterprise, so they are going to consume an actual seat that you're visibly going to be able to see this time. So we'll go with that one. All right, now for some exam hints. For the exam questions about billable users, pay attention to clues about location within the admin hub, the product and subscription plan, and whether it's a sandbox. Pay attention to the user status. It'll be very important for you to know. Oh no. Sample questions. Dun dun dun. Right. Your billing preview appears as shown. Confluence free 10 users. Software standard 11 users. You just invited a new user to Confluence and gave them access to all of your spaces. You also removed the user from your software product access. Okay. What happens immediately afterwards? So Confluence will be upgraded to a standard plan. Yes. Because you went to 11. Confluence will begin a standard plan trial period. Also, yes, because you went to 11. Your software will be downgraded to the free plan. Hell no. Atlassian will never, ever take money back away from you. They always want your money. They're going to conveniently.
This is a fun thing where the internet lasts forever. So,
But this is true. Like, why would at
Well,
last no company would be like, "Hey guys, you lost a soul. We're going to give it to you free again." No, you got to go and upgrade to that one. Your software will begin a free trial period. No, that this one just is wrong. Like, how
okay.
can you be on a trial of free? It's like both subscriptions will remain the same. No, because you will have to change. You have to change Confluence. There's a limit of 10, and you're going to 11. And then both subscriptions will change. No, because the standard will even if you go down to 10, you'll still be paying for 10 standard. So we're left to B and C.
Yeah,
So
you whittled it down from 6 to 2. So which is it? You got a 50-50 shot now.
I know. Well, this one it can be true, but it's not always true, right? Because it's only going to be true the very first time. But we don't have enough information to know that because I don't think that if you change them, like, because then that would
Take
be the ultimate
so
hack.
just to kind of help you out here and to kind of give away what I think the correct answer is.
I think it's A.
Notice the word immediately.
I think it's A because B could be true, but then this would be like the ultimate hack. And I think Atlassian wouldn't allow for this, right? Because who am I to like go? Let's just say I want a standard, right? And I want to get free 15-day trials of standard. I can upgrade to standard, get my free 15-day trial, downgrade back to free, and then come back up to like I could infinitely do this. And I don't think Atlassian would allow for that. So I want to say it's A. Let's see if I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Why? Why would Atlassian allow me to do a hack like this?
Well, first off, if you were on the free plan, you didn't have to give any billing information. No credit card, no nothing, right?
That's true.
But once you hit that number 11, then you're I mean, they're not going to leave you in a lurch. So they'll put you onto that trial for standard or premium. And then for the 14 days of standard or
30 days of premium.
30 days of premium.
I
And
also
then
kind of
at
feel
the
like they
end of
don't
that,
even.
that's when they're going to ask you for, okay, we need a credit card.
Yeah, but then again, so now what's stopping me from like at the end of those 14 days dropping my users back down to 10, going back on free because you can downgrade, and then coming back into standard.
Well, I mean, I mean, there isn't.
I would like to try that because if I just found a way to get infinite Jira or Confluence and Jira for free,
by switching from at 10
watch
users
them
switching.
change the test because of this.
Watch them change the policy because of this. We'll call it the Alex Ortiz rule. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be called the Alex. Okay, so
I'm just like I like playing devil's advocate. Like, but you can understand why my logic. I 100% agree with your logic, but now you can understand why I was hesitant to pick that one because it felt like a hack. It felt like Atlassian shouldn't allow that. Because then I can infinitely get myself free Jira and Confluence.
So this speaks to the standard mechanism, and we'll actually, I think we talk about this later and this is an important part of the exam, and I think we talk about jumping levels, either upgrading from free to a paid plan or downgrading from a paid plan to a free plan. What happens? And you have to know this for the exam.
Yeah. So we're
when you go from a free to a paid plan, you don't immediately get billed. You will go through that plan's trial, 14 days for standard, 30 days for premium.
So, and we're going to do it right now. We're going to set it up, and then in 14 days, we're going to come back, folks, and we're going to do this together. Right? Because I'm going to move it from free, if this thing wants me to go. We're going to go to standard today. And look, I can just skip it. I don't have to put this in. And I got my Confluence on premium. In 14 days, we will come back and I'm going to move it down to free again. And then we're gonna move it back up to premium to standard and see if
Right.
I can get into an infinite loop of getting myself free Jira and Confluence. Oh, Bob,
So
the things we do on the internet. All right,
right.
your organization only has Jira software and Jira work management. The directory includes the 6 users below. We got Greg, Hank, Ian, Jack, Katie. They're active, invited, suspended. Okay. Which are considered billable? So we got Greg is active, but doesn't have access to any products. So no. This homie, Hank, is invited and has access to one. So Hank is definitely good. Ian's invited, but nothing. So no. Jack is invited and has access to two. So yes. Katie is invited and has access to one. So yes. Look at that. I'm not completely useless. Onward. All right.
All right.
We're good to go. So let's go over to section 2 and let's see if we can knock this out in 20 minutes. Managing users.
Yes.
We're going to look at understanding managed and non-managed accounts, granting access to products via product roles, prompt reset passwords, suspend and restore access, remove a user and log in as a user. So let's open these bad boys up and start reading through them. And I'm really hoping that we have time to not go on so many tangents. All right. Removing or suspending a user. Hopefully these are trivial. These feel like it's just like very black and white. Right. So which user? So to go to your admin.atlassian.com, go to your directory, go to your user, right? And then once you're there, then all you're going to want to do is like find the user you want, click on the ellipses and remove the user. And so we'll do this here. We'll come back over to this Jira over here. We have a user, so we'll go to directory. We're inside of users, so we have Rodney at King Bob. So we'll just go to this homie here, and you click on the ellipsis here, and you just simply remove the user. Now, the thing I will tell you, when you remove a user, which is a drastic thing to do in my opinion, that user is gone, right? It
Yep.
will say in Jira, in your tickets, right? So let's just assume that they did have tickets and or things were assigned to them or they were the reporter of things. It'll come back as deactivated or deleted user, no, or something user that comes back with nobody, which is a problem because now you cannot find the issues that were assigned to Rodney. If you make them suspended, however, they don't have access, so you're covered with the billing, you're covered with the security of it, but you can at least still find the issues that used to belong to Rodney. So I always tell teams suspend them, never remove, unless you have like a really, 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 really good reason to remove. What
Right.
do you think?
And then suspended users can be reactivated. So
Yeah. So if they, for whatever reason you want to bring them back on, suspended, you can always re-enable. But once you remove a user, they're gone, and their paper trail of them existing in Jira is also gone. So use this as I would say as a last case, unless you're 1000% sure this user's never coming back. Because otherwise, when they come back, they're going to be a whole new person, and don't ask for historical data. Next up, control how users get access to products. So we've covered this before, but this is freaking confusing. So let's cover it some more. So this page covers the settings that control how users get access to your product. So users within a product access also have organization access. Each user that joins the organization takes up a license seat for each product that they have access to. So let's go look at that. So remember, we talked about approved domain. So when you add a user, if they're in an approved domain, then they're automatically going to get whatever stuff you get, whatever you configured in your approved domain section.
right.
But we told you, don't do that. We told you not to do that because, this is, again, Atlassian, of course, is the first thing, right? Internet lives forever. So sorry, Atlassian. But this makes the most sense for Atlassian because it's the most convenient way to do it, but also cha-ching, right? Like Atlassian will get money for every single person because you'll set up your policy and like 2 years from now, your same policy you have, and now you have like 1,000 more users that have joined your company since 2 years ago, but now all of a sudden your Atlassian bill's 1,000 times higher. And of course, that's goodness for Bob's stock, but really bad for your wallet.
Okay, so Alex is kind of throwing out a blanket statement here. I think approved domains are a useful tool. So, for example, if you want to make sure that any user in your email domain is a JSM customer, you
Yeah,
can set up their role
just the
in the
customer,
approved
which
domain.
but we discussed this last time, but that's okay because they're free and
Right.
potentially fully free. But we will come back to you with respect to the Atlassian Access bill,
Okay.
because
But
now
okay. So leaving Atlassian Access aside because
aside,
it's a separate thing.
but we
We
said
are
this though.
remember
We
talking
said
about
this in the
product access.
Yeah, but we said
All
this in
right.
the last video. If you are gonna do approved domain, leave just the customer.
Right.
This is a good policy because it's free. But
Right.
don't do any of the other ones because then it's not free. And then Bob's getting money in his stock.
So approved domains is one tool that you can use, and Alex is going to talk about the other two tools
Yes.
that I think are there.
There are the other ones.
Well,
uh
invitation links and
I don't think they're in here. Are they?
is it
Yeah,
there?
user invites. Okay.
Yeah, and user invites.
Configure how users with non-public. So there is, remember, an any domain one that we've also covered. So enable that one if you want to. Again, both of these approved domains, in my opinion, though, are a surefire way to get into some trouble. So exercise caution when you're looking at these. So these steps are exactly the same between any domain and a specific domain. So they're or an approved domain. So they're exactly the same steps. You're going to do them in the same screen, and we've already covered them. So next we got user invites. So you can go to the product and invite somebody, and when you're doing that, you will
You can
then
specify whether or not they
yeah,
need
a product.
approval from the admins.
Right. So when you come over here, when you come over here to add user, you'll invite user, and then you pick the product role here. So that's also happening there. And then you can customize the message that goes out to them. Have you ever customized the message? I've never customized the
I
message.
never do.
And then that's it. So this doesn't. Oh, and then there's the invitation link. So again, remember that there's a way to circumvent your admin approval by generating. Where did they go? Was it products?
Yeah.
User access setting, invitation links. So you can give these links which circumvent any admin approval. So again, not a good idea. Nothing on this page is good for you from a enterprise or company perspective. Great from a Atlassian perspective and a make it your life easier perspective, but keep that in mind. Okay, so how does product access work? So this is where things get a little bit more into the. So the last page we basically covered like, hey, how do we get somebody into our org, right? But now being in your org is great, except it doesn't do much, right? Because if you don't have access to a Jira product, then there's no like, why are you here, right? So obviously we're here because we want to have access to something. So this is kind of where we cover that. So as an admin, you're going to be able to do this in different ways, right? So you're going to be able to assign product roles. So to give product access, you must assign them to a role. Now keep in mind that this is a product role. Okay, we later on in different when you're inside of Jira and in Confluence, you also have project roles, well, specifically in Jira. So don't confuse your project roles from your product roles. Okay. Organization admins are able to assign product roles. User access admins can also do this. This is new. Has this been rolled out yet, Bob?
What's that?
This user access admin?
It has been rolled out. You'll actually see it in the on the user interface, but it is not covered on the exam. The
Okay,
course
because
does not mention user access.
But it's not a group that I can pick yet, right?
It's not a group. It's a role. It's not a group. It's a role.
Okay, so then if I come over here to Jira, user access admin. So I'm just going to quickly mention this, folks. So this is fun. If you want somebody to be an admin, but you don't want them to be an admin of Jira, you could make them a user access, which means that they can administer the
Who gets
groups
into
and
Jira?
who gets into Jira, but they don't go to your workflows. They don't go to your
Yeah.
your screens, your fields, and all that good stuff. They don't have to have those technical chops, which is great if you have like an HR person that manages your Jira, or if you have some non-technical person in your company managing your Jira, and you want them to still be able to do like all the billing and stuff, you can give them this new, which again is not in the exam and is just rolling out. You can give them this user access admin, which only basically lets them manage users. Um, because the org admin gives you all the power in the world, and you don't always want that either, right? So your Atlassian is rolling out this new functionality. So I thought I'd throw it out because some people are seeing it in documentation, but it's still not rolled out to everybody. So keep that in mind. Right, because again, the site admin can do it, but they get all the power, which is also different from the Jira admin. So you could give somebody the group of administrator or the group of Jira administrator, and that's going to let them do all the workflows and fields and custom fields and stuff, but they're not going to be able to see anything on the admin.atlassian.com. And so that's too limiting. But then the next step up is to go to your site/org admin, but that gives you everything. And so now they're kind of dividing it where you can do just Jira admin, technical, all of it, or just the user management. So I think that's smart.
Yep.
But again, not rolled out to everybody, but coming to a theater near you. All right. And then you can also do this is an additional layer of access that gives more granular control over specific areas. For example, you can use both in-product permissions to limit a user's access to secret Jira projects or confidential Confluence spaces. Holy moly. Both org admins and product admins can apply this level of permission. This is confusing. This shouldn't be on the test.
Yeah, I think that actually is a level deeper, where it's and it's basically scoped to the product itself,
Yeah.
where you you essentially give somebody access to a project, through browse
Right.
project,
Yeah. Which I don't. Yeah. That
through
wouldn't
project
even be covered
permissions,
in the.
or give access to somebody to a space through space
Right.
permission.
Which
So,
again wouldn't be covered in the exam here. Good morning, Damien. Thanks for coming in. Good morning.
hey,
Happy New
Damien.
Year's Eve. All right. Assign product role. So we got 8 minutes here. I don't know how much we're going to get through all this. So as an organization, you're going to grant the default level of product access to users by doing the following. So you're going to assign a product role when you invite the user. You're going to assign a product role to give product access to an existing user, or you're going to add one or users to a group, which then gives them for access. A user access admin can also do these tasks, but only for products they administer. This means that if a product's default group also includes products they don't administer, a user access admin won't be able to grant access to do that product. So as you can see over here, when we came over here with Rodney, he can access for this Jira software if I give it to him, but he wouldn't be able to do it for JSM, and he wouldn't be able to do it for Confluence, and he wouldn't be able to do it for this other Jira software unless I check them all. So keep that in mind. So now, Bob, this whole user admin thing becomes totally useless for me because like way to like introduce a cool feature and then handicap it. Sorry, Atlassian. This is why I'm not sponsored by Atlassian. All right, so let's just take a look at this. So we got users. We got a user here. We put this user into a default software group for Jira software and for a default group for Confluence. And so because we put them in there, they're going to get access to these two products. Notice that they don't get access to this one because each one of them is going to be configured a little bit differently, right? So you have the option to dictate who gets what and what goes who, right? So that's just kind of like the nature of the beast, and you just got to know how that works. And we can see that over here, right? So when we come over here to the products, right, we're going to have these actions to manage product. And so you notice that I have Jira Software, the study one and the non-study one, right? And so when I click on this manage product, I get to pick the groups that go in there. Notice that it's the Jira Software user access admins. And then notice that I have the Jira Software users ACP-520 APTAC. Okay. But when I go to the other one, you should notice that I have the ACP-520 APTAC 2. Notice that the one without the 2 is not here, and they're not a default group. So by putting somebody into one, they don't automatically get everything. I could, however, if I wanted to, maybe, we'll see how right this is. I could come in and grab, maybe, yep, this one, and then give it to them. but that's again a now configurable thing that you're doing. So you can slice and dice this any way you want, but it's not it doesn't work out of the box. All right, so uh, but the long story short here though is like you just got to make sure that, and I'm gonna go over details, and I don't want to rush into this one, so I think we're gonna pick this back up, Bob. I don't know, maybe next weekend, right? But the key
Well, you
thing to
definitely
know
have
here,
a 2-week window because you set that confluence
yeah,
to.
yeah. Yeah, so we'll go over details on how all this works, because this right here though, like I recommend you definitely set up a couple free jurors like we have here, and then play around with this, right? Because you really deeply want to understand how this works. Like this is probably one of the more confusing things, but something you use like daily, but as you're adding teams.
So Damien here is going to be our little chaos agent here, where he says,
Yeah,
if you have
let's just
admins,
pause it
devs,
here.
agents, and customers all in one group, user management in Atlassian becomes very easy. Yeah.
If you have admins, devs, agents, and customers all in one group, yeah.
I mean, user management might become easy. Other aspects of your life may not. So
Yeah, and your billing department might not be happy with all the bills. I actually was like, I was working with a team recently that I was like, you're paying for everybody to have everything. I'm like, you guys know that, right? Like everybody has everything. And they weren't like on like the standard and free stuff, right? Like they were on premium everything. And they had everybody's an agent. Everybody's got Confluence Premium. Everybody's got Jira Premium. And I'm like, like your whole company has access to everything. That's a very expensive bill. They're like, oh, because for convenience. I'm like, well, convenience comes at a price, folks. It comes at a price. I'm a little bit more frugal than most. Okay. If your organization needs a confidential Jira project, then you want to restrict access based on a user's role. For example, you may want to restrict access for contractors and vendors, but only allow access. So, in this particular case, I think this is a. I don't think this would be covered in the exam, because this is like a practical thing where you pay me to help you figure this out, type of thing. But you are definitely going to want to get creative with your groups, but I don't think this is covered in the exam. So, but we go into groups, right? So groups are going to help you do this. I think it'll help you manage this a little bit easier, because groups are containers for where you put people in. And as you saw right now, as you see here, these are all groups, and you can give access licenses to people based on what group they're in. So you don't individually need to go in and like, I mean, you can individually go in and put somebody like toggle on their license. But when you toggle on their license, all you're doing is putting that user into this group. And then this group's the default group, which means that they can get the license. So everything at the end of the day is managed at a group level. And
it is.
all you need to understand from a group perspective is that there's going to be some groups that are driven or used for license. Like all these groups here will give you a license to this product. And then there's going to be groups that are just there for bucketization, right? They're just there for, like, I can just create a group that says like Alex's group, right? And this group doesn't do anything. I can put every single person in this group, like every person, and nothing happened. All I did was like put them into a bucket. It's not until I put this group into this managed product page and add it over here that I now made Alex's group a very expensive group. But up until that moment, you can create 1,000 groups just to kind of organize people. You can organize your customers. You can organize your clients. You can organize whatever you want, right? But just be careful when you put those groups into that product role, which is then what then starts driving up your costs. But yeah, so just understand that at the end of the day, whenever you're giving access to the product, whenever you're giving a license, you're gonna put somebody into a group, whether that's a
Yes.
custom group or whether it's the out of the box group. Um, the group and the product access is the same. They're one and the same at first when you first set them up.
Right. And that's also true if you don't even, when you give product access to somebody, you don't even mention what group they're in. So if you specify the product and the role, you're still going to be putting them into a group. And the group
Yeah.
that they get put into are the default access groups.
And it's gonna be like this one for the admins and this one's for users. Like this just comes out of the box. It's vanilla, right? Like don't mess with it if you don't understand it. But just know that I can take Bob's group and I can make it the default as user. So now anytime I add somebody to Bob's group,
As a
automatically they're going to
user.
be put as a user.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime that I go to any other user, so I can go over here to my users and I can come to Rodney and I can add users to a group and I can add him to Bob's group. And now he has a Jira license. Even though I didn't do anything else, right? All I did was add him to a group. Right.
Right.
I didn't mess around with this. I didn't touch this in any way, shape, or form. But because I now put him in Bob's group and Bob's group has access to these two products, not only did I give him a Jira license, but I also gave him a Confluence license. if this is true here, right? Which it is in this case. Right. Notice how this group, Bob's group, is designed to grant licenses to both Confluence and Jira. I can manipulate this by going to my product, going to Confluence, removing Bob's group here, right? And so now when I go to my directory and I go back to Mr. Rodney and I go show details here, notice that this used to say 2, but now it says 1. And I could, again, take another step and remove Bob completely, right? But these are the out-of-the-box groups. These are non-negotiable, folks. Like, you can't delete these groups. And so I would say, if you're kind of new, trust in the fact that when I add, so watch this. Like, I can do this over here too, right? I can simply remove this Confluence 8 Tech 20, and it's going to get rid of this guy here. So all I need to do is come here, deselect that, and once, see, it just went away. So by giving this up here, you're basically just adding a user to a group, but that group happens to be a default group. And so just know that you can add users in one of two ways. You can either toggle these licenses over here by doing the drop down, or, right, or I can put somebody back into, so watch this. So let me take that group. Let me take Bob's group, put him into the Confluence one. So if I go to Confluence over here, go to Manage Product, I'm going to add Bob's group over here, and I'm going to give him a user role. Click Add. So now when I go to Directory and I go back to Ronnie's account, and I show the details, notice that the user for Confluence is enabled again, even though I turned it off, right? And notice that he's still not in that Confluence one anymore, but he does have a Confluence license because he's in Bob's group, and Bob's group grants him access to that. And if you can master just that 5 seconds there, you're solid.
Yeah.
You're good. That's
Yep.
all you need to know. That's literally how you access groups. So master that, and then I think we're good. So that explains basically everything that we just explained here in all these pictures, but in 5 seconds. So that's it for this. And Bob, we are out of time. We are still 4 pages out. So we're going to have to pick this back up. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Bob, you doing anything fun tonight?
I celebrate New Year's when the East Coast celebrates New Year's. So that means
that's what we're going to do
I'm
this year.
I'm done at I'm done at 10. So
That's what we're going to be doing this year, because last year we stayed up to midnight, but we stayed up to midnight for Christmas Eve, because I don't know if the internet knows, but Hispanics or Mexicans specifically celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve and not Christmas Day. And so we stayed up till midnight, and the next 3 days was hell. So my wife's like, we're all going back to work and we're all going back to school on Tuesday, so let's not do that again tomorrow night or tonight. So we're going to do it East Coast time. So New York will be with you in spirit, from Southern California and Phoenix respectively. So that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hopefully you found this beneficial. We do want to get through. I mean, I have to get through these over the next couple of weeks. So, Bob,
yeah,
do you need to be a part of
he's got the deadline of like February something. So he's
Yeah.
got to.
So the question becomes, Bob, can I do these without you, or do I have to stay along with you? Because I don't want to inconvenience you. But we can also do them in the afternoons or evenings if you got time.
Give me a holler and I'll make time.
All right,
I gotta help you get this cert.
Yeah, I probably want to do one like on Tuesday or Wednesday this week, so that we can just keep the momentum going, because we got to probably do one Tuesday, Wednesday, and then like Saturday or Sunday. We got to get these done. All right, folks. Hopefully you enjoy this. We're going to try to come back at you with 2 more. Hopefully finish chapter 2 by the end of this week, and then chapter 3 or module 3 next week, and then chapter 4 the week after that. And then we're done before January, and I can take the test like the first week of February. So Um, let's do that. All right.
All right.
Make sure you subscribe.
Happy New Year.
And
Bye, everybody.
bye. Oh wait, wrong button. I gotta stop the stream.